my guitar, my instrument literally has been my ticket around the world, to get to experience other cultures and other countries, and spread music, uniting people. Music is one of the only things in our world that truly unites people. It may sound cliche, but it's absolutely true.
This is Hamilton Loomis. Hamilton is a Galveston-born, world-touring blues, rock, and soul musician. He's a UST alumnus and is also the protege of musical legend Bo Diddley. But most importantly, he's a family man. In this episode of Bold, Hamilton talks about life as a touring musician. He shares stories of his education, both collegiate and musical, and talks about how music and travel opened his mind. Finally, he talks about the challenges of balancing a family and music. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to Mac Studios and hit the bell icon so that you're the first to see all our newest episodes. And check us out on Instagram and now TikTok at Mac Studios UST to stay in the loop and get behind the scenes sneak peeks at everything we're working on. Now, let's jump into this episode of Bold with Hamilton.
Be my sugar baby. I'll be your sugar man.
All right, welcome to Bold. I'm Darnell Miller, a producer here at Mac Studios, in today for Isabel Garcia. And today we're talking to Hamilton Loomis. He is an alumnus of the class of 1998. I don't want to age you, but that's where you're from.
It's inevitable.
He's a musician. He's toured the world playing. He's a great performer. He played at Two Saints at a Taco Tasting this past summer, and it was fantastic seeing him on that stage. So Hamilton, welcome to Bold.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
The Two Saints thing was literally like a reunion. I mean, just getting to reconnect with so many of my friends, many of whom I hadn't even seen since we graduated.
Since graduation,
it was fantastic, man.
Yeah, it was a good time. I really enjoyed seeing you there. So as we get started, I just want to ask you. Seeing your friends kind of probably brought back a lot of memories.
Oh yeah, dude.
What was your St. Thomas time like?
So what I loved the most about it was like the social aspects of St. Thomas. First of all, I lived on campus all 4 years. Okay. I lived in the dorms, and it was the first time in my life, coming right out of high school, obviously, it was the first time in my life that I was, surrounded by like-minded people, and also people who, wanted to learn like I did and wanted to have our minds opened and wanted different perspectives, and I know that's one of the things that St. Thomas, prides itself on is diversity, and just having so many people around and getting so many great ideas and having so many great deep discussions, over lunch and stuff like that, or in the dorm especially, just because that was such a great experience, and it really opened my mind,
Yeah, I think so. I am also an alumnus of the university, also lived on campus all 4 years.
Yeah.
And I found that the most fun I had was sitting in the lobby of Guinan, 2 a.m, just chatting with people.
That's exactly what I was referring to. When you have these great conversations, with like I said, with like-minded people. It was huge.
What did you study when you were there? I know you had a strong interest in music. Was that your major?
I did a double. I did music and communications as well. I always was interested in broadcasting and television and that sort of thing. One of the great things about that was that I remember one of my professors, John Butler. He actually was one of the night producers at Fox Television. So to have somebody like that, who was very hands-on and who was in the field, actually working the live newscasts that we used to watch every night. That was really, really cool because you got real world, instruction that way. So yeah, that was really cool.
That's fantastic. I actually had Butler for professor too.
No way. Yeah. Great, yeah.
He was a producer of the morning show at our time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But he's the person who taught me how to do all of this. So
yeah.
That's fantastic. And in music, what was it like in music? I know you come from a musical background, but what was it like actually being able to study it in a collegiate setting?
Well, it was great because the depth of how far I was learning things, whether it be music theory or music history. I never really I hadn't ever really experienced that before. So it was really enriching and sort of learning the evolution of music from the very beginnings. It was really, really fascinating, you know. And at the same time, I was in the jazz department as well. You know, Tom Borling and Dr. Crow, of course, and Mike Wheeler was the most unbelievable jazz guitarist like that you've ever heard. Was my guitar teacher, you know, so I learned so much, you know, and a lot of what I learned, you know, I applied on stage, especially from Mike Wheeler, even just teaching me chords and voicings and that sort of thing, and I was able to like inject those into my own music, and so it was a really great experience.
Nice. And so what was life like, you know, post graduation, like, you know, the first couple of years out of college, you know, how did you approach like trying to go out and live in the quote unquote real world?
Well, it was kind of interesting because I actually had a job lined up at Fox Television as a nonlinear video editor. We're talking 98 here when it was first coming out. And I actually turned it down to be a full-time musician, just to give it a shot, because I knew that, like, if I didn't take that opportunity, because the job that was offered from Fox was also on weekends, and I was gigging on weekends and I was working, and I'm just like, you know what, if I don't try this full time, I'm going to regret it, you know, for the rest of my life. And so, you know, I just went for it, and I've never looked back.
That's awesome. It's I feel like it's one of those like pivotal moments where you could have gone either way.
Absolutely, you know, and you know, I mean, I'm glad I made that choice, you know, because my guitar, my instrument, literally has been my ticket around the world, you know, to get to experience other cultures and other countries, and spread music, uniting people. You know, music is one of the only things in our world that truly unites people. It may sound cliche, but it's absolutely true. You know, when people go to a concert, you know, any background or culture, you know, it just evaporates because everyone's there for the music. And taking that to other countries as well was a huge, it's just so gratifying, you know, when everybody, and people from different countries are enjoying, you know, music together, you know.
That's awesome. And so, you know, when you travel, like that's kind of like learning amped up, right? Like, so you go from a collegiate setting where you're kind of learning to the real world where you're learning. What are some of the takeaways you've had from being able to tour, being able to see the world like that?
Oh, well, I mean, the main thing is, you know, I thought my mind was opened, you know, when I was in college at St. Thomas. Going to other countries really, really opened my mind. And there's a difference between, you know, just going to a country as a tourist, seeing the sights, going back to the hotel, seeing the sights, going back to the hotel, going back to the airport, and going home. You haven't really experienced the country. But when we get to, like, you know, hit the pavement and like drive everywhere and like dine with families and dine with the promoters and stuff, and you talk and you just like learn, and you learn about other countries' perspectives on us. And that was really eye-opening as well. And you also see how other, you know, countries run their governments, run, you know, everything. I mean, here's a small example. Like, you go over to Europe, there's roundabouts everywhere. And I used to go, oh, these are silly, because we're just used to stoplights. We don't have that many roundabouts here. But then the more you do them, you're just like, oh my God, this is a brilliant idea.
They're efficient.
They save fuel because you don't ever have to come to a complete stop. If you miss your turn, you just go around it again. So you never miss your turn. You know, it's brilliant. You know, and so it like changes your mind into that, you know, that narrow-minded thing. Oh, you know, this is silly. And then you go, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. And
so you appreciate that roundabout over by Herman Park by the university?
Of course, we just got one in Katy where I live as well. Yeah, there's two now, which is really it just, that part of it, and take that and multiply it by, you know, all the other experiences that you have, you know, and you really get a great perspective that way, and you get respect for other cultures as well. I didn't really get a chance to actually start touring until about 2001. That was just mainly in the States, and then I started touring overseas about 2005.
Okay,
I think.
That's awesome. And so you were living that lifestyle of touring, traveling the world, but I know you're a family man now. So what was that transition like? How did you kind of go from being able to balance like life on the road to, taking care of a family?
Well, what I had to do was just be more efficient with traveling. My 7-year-old has special needs as well. He was born with a rare pancreatic disease called hyperinsulinism, which causes extreme hypoglycemia, extreme low blood sugar. And it's very rare. And I like to talk about it because it raises awareness, because low blood sugar is kind of ignored by the medical community, as opposed to diabetes, which is very prominent and everything. But I won't talk a lot about that. But what we did was figure out a way to be more efficient and not be gone as long. Basically, we just started flying everywhere. And just, instead of spending, 12 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours, in a bus or something, and you're away from your family, you just fly to a market, do a few gigs, fly back. That was the best way to do it, is just not being gone as long, so I can spend more time, with my son and my family.
Nice. And with that in mind, what does your future look like? What does the future hold? Are you planning on more tours?
Well, at the time of this interview, unfortunately, we're still in the middle of the pandemic, and so traveling is kind of tricky for me right now. I especially have to be careful about my son, because of his, medical condition as well. So, like I said, I got to be safe, And even when we do shows, we're only mainly doing outdoor shows now here in Texas for safety.
And so what have you guys done in the meantime? Just at home, producing more music, working on?
Well, and again, necessity is the mother of invention sometimes, and musicians like myself, we were some of the first ones to be unemployed when the pandemic hit, because it's like, oh, large groups of people,
it's a no-go.
That's a no-go. So it's like, what do we do? So I, started doing some streaming shows, some online streaming shows. And that was basically the only way I could feed my family was doing those, and like either, doing, online, payments or tickets or, that sort of thing. And there were some venues that were really smart right at the beginning of the pandemic. In fact, one even in England, they sold tickets and had like an exclusive just for the ticket holders, like a Zoom concert.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That kind of thing. And then they even had like Q&A in the middle of it live, like while I'm performing, like while I was on my intermission, and they would like email their questions and stuff. So it was like a really cool like solution to the problem. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So with that in mind, what advice would you offer to students who are kind of trying to figure out what they want to do? Like, how do they create a future where they have the skill set to be able to adapt when stuff happens out of, unexpectedly? Well,
one of the things I remember about my class and a lot of my classmates, I didn't do this because I had specific scholarships for my majors or whatever, but a lot of my classmates changed their major like, once or twice, or some even like 3 times, and they ended up going a lot longer. And, what I realized once you finish, it's more about, the work involved in getting that degree. That's almost more important than what the degree is in, I think. And because I remember when I was interning at Fox Television, they were just like, here's what you need to know, forget about what you learned at school. And I was like, oh man, you see what I mean? So it's kind of like, a degree, no matter what it's in, it's that journey to get that degree that it teaches you, you learn how to learn, you learn, diligence and discipline. You learn that piece of paper says that you're a great worker. You can be, people can depend on you. You're dependable. I can't even think of the word.
I was going to say committed.
I went to college. I have a horrible vocabulary. It means you're dependable. You can complete tasks. You're on time. Just all these things. That's what that says about you. So I would probably say, don't worry so much what your degree is in. Just finish. And, that makes you a stronger person and a more dependable, reliable, focused person. Just having that that degree, and you'll learn the skills in the real world as you go.
Perfect. All right. So if you're interested in finding out more about Hamilton Loomis, check out his website and check out to see where he's playing, because seeing him in person is a treat. So thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you for
You've
having
been
me.
listening to Bold, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bold is a podcast produced by Max Studios at University of St. Thomas in Houston. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook at Max Studios UST.